The Traitors is a game where psychological skills like navigating social relationships, forming alliances, and spotting deception are central to success. But here's the thing, contestants often rely on strategies that feel intuitive but are actually psychologically flawed, and that usually leads them to being banished. In this series, as a psychologist, I'm going to give you my ultimate strategy for the Traitors, sharing my gameplay strategy as both a faithful and a traitor. The show is often called a game of deception and social deduction, but from a psychological perspective, it's really all about trust. Contestants are constantly deciding who to rely on in a high-pressure environment with very limited information. They form snap judgments about who seems trustworthy, and often they get it completely wrong. So what is trust exactly? In psychology, trust isn't just believing someone is honest. It's about taking a risk and relying on them, hoping they'll act in your interest. When we trust someone, we lower our guard. We stop watching their every move, we share information more freely, and we may even follow their lead. In the game, this means a contestant who trusts another player might miss the signs that reveal their true role. Trust isn't just a game thing, it's how we get through everyday life. We trust doctors, friends, family, and other experts to know best or to act in our best interest. Without it, life would just be very exhausting. We'd have to double check everything constantly. In the Traitors, the same principle applies. Players want allies they can trust to reduce uncertainty, but because the game is built on deception, these perceptions can be manipulated. Signals of trustworthiness don't need to be genuine, they just need to be convincing enough. And that's where impression management comes in, the art of shaping how others see you. Psychological research tells us that there are certain characteristics that make people seem trustworthy, which we then could tactically exploit.
And perhaps I
You
should
can
have said...
trust me.
First, there is benevolence. This is the belief that someone genuinely wants to help others and isn't just looking out for themselves. Benevolence is often inferred through cues of warmth and empathy. So a good strategy would be to be a good listener, offer reassurance and empathy, show you care about them and their own game. Doing this can make others see you as a safer ally. Next is integrity. People who seem fair, honest, and morally principled are judged as more trustworthy. In the Traitors, integrity can be signalled in lots of ways. During group tasks, for instance, I might prioritise increasing the prize pot over keeping the shield for myself. Or I could bring up discussions about who deserves to get a shield, signalling fairness. And at the round table, I could appeal to the idea of being genuine and true to myself throughout to further reinforce integrity. Reliability and consistency also shape who we trust. People trust others who behave predictably and follow through on commitments. In contrast, someone who constantly changes alliances, demeanour, or communication style can seem suspicious. For me, maintaining a consistent approach and demeanour throughout the game, and especially at round tables, would be key. Other factors that can also influence trust regard how we communicate, such as fluency and speech rate. How smoothly and quickly someone talks can strongly influence how trustworthy they seem. People who speak confidently are often seen as more competent and credible. Hesitating or stumbling, on the other hand, can signal uncertainty, or even deception, as it may violate intuitive expectations of what honesty is supposed to look like. So at round tables, fluency and confidence can give your words more weight and appear more persuasive. Trust therefore is not tied to the quality of the evidence, but the ease and confidence with which it is communicated. We also naturally trust those who are similar to us, whether that be similar age, gender, values, or something else, it doesn't matter. What matters is that humans have a bias towards their in-group. Even if these similarities shouldn't matter in a strategic game where people have been assigned roles, They often do, and it can be hard to just cast these aside, and may affect our judgments unconsciously. For instance, even people who report not being prejudiced may exhibit implicit biases to those who are similar to themselves, affecting their judgments of warmth, honesty, or competence. Stereotypes also shape who we trust. Stereotypes act as mental shortcuts to simplify how we see things, letting us make fast judgments. Often though, these come at the cost of accuracy. For example, certain social groups might be unconsciously associated with warmth, trust, dominance, or threat. So a player's behaviour might be interpreted very differently depending on these stereotypes. Assertiveness, for instance, in one player may be read as confidence and leadership. In another, it may be viewed as manipulation and aggression. Similarly, emotional restraint might be read as calm and intelligent in some players, but as secrecy and calculation in others. In a game full of ambiguity, these biases could strongly influence who gets trusted or suspected. Given all of this, a solid traitor strategy would be to focus on presenting myself as benevolent, consistent, moral, and similar to other players, while also being a fluent communicator at the round table. But there's another psychological effect that can aid your strategy that may allow any positive trait about you to boost your trustworthiness: the halo effect. This is where if someone is liked for one positive trait, say for example humour or attractiveness, that can spill over into perceptions of other traits, including in this case our trustworthiness, even though clearly being funny should have nothing to do with whether we're seen as trustworthy. The reverse of this is the horn effect, which works for negative traits. These effects highlight the social nature of the game. Getting people to like you, even through traits unrelated to trust, can give you a subtle advantage. All of this matters because the game is unpredictable, and humans dislike uncertainty. We tend to rely on mental shortcuts to make the world feel more predictable and clearer. What's more is that psychology also tells us that people process information in two different ways. One is the central route. That's when we really dig into the evidence, carefully weigh arguments, and scrutinise what someone is saying. But in the Traitors, there's almost never enough solid evidence to do that. So most of the time, we'll have to fall back on the peripheral route. That's when we rely on these mental shortcuts. Simple cues like they seem confident or they seem credible, instead of actually evaluating their arguments. In other words, people often believe someone because of how they come across, not what they're actually saying. For our game plan, that's huge. It means we can focus on signals that make us seem trustworthy, our consistency, benevolence, integrity, even fluency in speech, to nudge others into trusting us, even when there's little hard evidence to back it up. So a lot of the ultimate strategy may rest away from Traitor's Tower and the Round Table, but more in the day-to-day conversations we have with other contestants in the game. The focus in those day-to-day conversations would be to find common ground with others, such as shared interests or our values or even background we come from. Coming across as personable and likeable in the hope the halo effect leads people to evaluating us positively in other respects. Displaying empathy, listening to others, showing concern for them and acting in ways that are moral and fair. And all the while doing this in a consistent way throughout and speaking confidently and fluently at the round table. If I were a faithful, however, the strategy would have to be different. It might feel intuitive to just identify those we trust and eliminate the suspicious. But as we've discussed, what we perceive as trustworthiness can just be bias or a traitor's skillful manipulation. So my approach would be to constantly question why I feel a certain way about a player. Is it psychological bias? Or is there real evidence in their voting patterns or behaviour? I would avoid trying to make early assumptions about people that can blind me to new information. So staying open-minded is really going to be important. The other problem is that appearing untrustworthy doesn't automatically mean someone is a traitor, and seeming trustworthy doesn't automatically mean they're a faithful. After all, the job for all players is to appear credible as a faithful. And of course sometimes, faithfuls may act in ways that appear untrustworthy because they feel the need to do so to survive. And if anything, traitors may be least likely to do anything untrustworthy because their job is to work hard and blend in. Lying, withholding information, and engaging in strategic manipulation would all draw unnecessary and unwanted attention. So what might appear untrustworthy at times could actually indicate someone is more of a faithful than they actually are a traitor, because traitors benefit from staying unnoticed. It may be useful therefore to see past these obvious traitory behaviours and instead focus on the less obvious ones. This idea actually appears in the Sherlock Holmes story, The Adventure of Silver Blaze. Sometimes the most telling clue is what didn't happen. While investigating a murder, Sherlock points out the curious incident of the dog in the nighttime. "The dog did nothing," Watson confusingly responds. "That was the curious incident," Sherlock remarks, hinting that the dog not barking demonstrates that the perpetrator must have been known to the dog. Perhaps it would be wise as a strategy to be more like Sherlock and less like Watson. In the Traitors, what people don't say or do may reveal more than actually what it is that they do. So psychologically, the strongest strategy isn't just spotting lies. It's about managing how others form impressions about you while staying skeptical of your own impressions about others. In the next episode, we'll explore whether deception can actually be detected in a game like the Traitors, and what psychology tells us about strategies that people think work versus what actually works. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with future episodes.